Parkland, Fla. Students who escaped the deadly school shooting in Florida focused their anger Sunday at President Donald Trump, contending that his response to the attack has been needlessly divisive. "You're the president. You're supposed to bring this nation together, not divide us," said David Hogg, a 17-year-old student at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in South Florida, speaking on NBC's Meet the Press. "How dare you," he added. Hogg was responding to Trump's tweet Saturday that Democrats hadn't passed any gun control measures during the brief time they controlled Congress with a supermajority in the Senate. Trump also alluded to the FBI's failure to act on tips that the suspect was dangerous while bemoaning the Bureau's focus on Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Read more. They are laughing their asses off in Moscow. Trump takes on the FBI Russia probe from Florida estate. Trump was at his Florida estate Sunday but did not mention the attack in a series of morning tweets. After more than a day of criticism from the students, the White House announced Sunday that the president would hold a listening session with unspecified students on Wednesday and meet with state and local security officials Thursday. Read more. President Trump to meet with Florida high school students. Florida politicians, meanwhile, scrambled to produce legislation in response to the February 14 attack that killed 17 people. In a TV interview, Republican Sen. Marco Rubio embraced a Democratic bill in the Florida legislature to allow courts to temporarily prevent people from having guns if they are determined to be a threat to themselves or others. Governor Rick Scott, also a Republican, attended a prayer vigil at the First Church Coral Springs, a few blocks from the shooting site. He is expected to announce a legislative package with GOP leaders of the legislature this week. Emma Gonzalez, another student who survived the attack, cited Trump, Rubio and Scott by name in a warning to politicians who are supported by the National Rifle Association. "Now is the time to get on the right side of this, because this is not something that we are going to let sweep under the carpet," she said on Meet the Press. The pointed comments by the students are the latest sign of increased pressure for gun control after the massacre. The students have vowed to become the face of a movement for tighter firearm regulations and plan to visit the state capitol in Tallahassee this week to demand immediate action. They are also calling for anti-gun violence demonstrations in Washington and other cities March 24. Organizers behind the Women's March, an anti-Trump and female empowerment protest, called for a 17-minute, nationwide walkout by teachers and students on March 14. The Network for Public Education, an advocacy organization for public schools, announced a day of walkouts, sit-ins and other events on school campuses on April 20, the anniversary of the 1999 shooting at Columbine High School in Colorado that left 12 students and one teacher dead. Meanwhile, school and other government records obtained Sunday show the suspect, 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, was diagnosed as developmentally delayed at age 3 and had disciplinary issues dating back to middle school. In February 2014, while in 8th grade, Cruz was transferred to a special school for children with emotional and behavioral issues. He stayed there until 10th grade, when he was transferred to Stoneman Douglas. A month after arriving, Cruz was written up for using profanity. Last year, Cruz was expelled. On Sept. 28, 2016, an investigator from the Florida Department of Children and Families visited Cruz and his mother, Linda Cruz, after he posted video on Snapchat showing him cutting himself. The report showed that Cruz had written a racial epithet against African Americans and a Nazi symbol on his book bag, which his mother had forced him to erase. The investigator said Cruz was suffering from depression and on medication and had told Linda Cruz he planned to buy a gun, but she couldn't determine why. Read more. State investigated after school shooting suspect cut himself. She said he had been depressed after breaking up with a girlfriend who had been cheating on him, the investigator said. A school counselor told the investigator that Linda Cruz had always tried to help her son and followed through on his therapy and medication, but the counselor was concerned about the youth's desire to buy a gun. Crisis counselor told the DCF investigator he had visited the school and that he did not believe Cruz was a danger to himself or others. The case was closed, with the investigator concluding that Cruz was receiving help from his mother and counselors, and no other referrals or services were needed. After Linda Cruz died in November, Cruz moved into the home of a teenage friend. The friend's parents told the Sun-Sentinel newspaper they had no idea the extent of Cruz's issues. "We had this monster living under our roof and we didn't know," Kimberly Sneed told the newspaper in an interview published Sunday. "We didn't see this side of him," James Sneed added. "Everything everybody seems to know, we didn't know. It's as simple as that." The Sneeds said Cruz seemed ill-adapted to life on his own, unable to do simple tasks like laundry or use the microwave. He kept the AR-15 he allegedly used in the massacre locked in a gun safe along with a few other firearms. James Sneed thought he had the only key to the cabinet but has figured out Cruz must have kept another key. The family kept their own rifles, bought after a burglary a few years ago, in a separate locked cabinet. They told Cruz he needed to ask permission to take out the guns. He had asked only twice since November. They said yes once and no once. On Wednesday morning, Cruz told them he didn't need a ride to school. "It's Valentine's Day and I don't go to school on Valentine's Day," he said. Cruz sent their son a few texts that day. In one, he asked what classroom the boy was in. He said he was going to see a movie. Later he texted he had something important he wanted to tell the teen. Then he wrote, "Nothing man, ______, Lush reported from St. Petersburg, Florida." Associated Press writers Gary Fine out in Tallahassee, Florida and Nicholas Riccardi in Denver contributed.